In this tutorial we're going to have a look at animating text letter by letter. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go down to the timeline, click on the timeline to activate it. We'll see the blue line appear around it. It tells us it's activated. We can press spacebar to just preview what's already in the composition. So that gives us an idea of what's already there. We want to go back to, we're interested in this layer, the second layer down, with this text, the name of the company on. If we press I, that will take the needle back to the beginning of that layer where that text first appears. If we open up the sub layer by clicking on the arrow next to the Boolnica on layer 2, and then if we go down to the subsection here, the sub-settings of that layer, if you go over to the right you'll see it says Animate here, and click on the arrow next to that, and then if you go up to opacity, okay, so you see now I've added opacity to this Animator 1 subsection here. You see we've got opacity here, and that's nested underneath range selector here. So the range refers to this range of letters here. Okay, so if I set the opacity to 0, you'll see that the letters disappear. And if I expand out the range selector, you can see we've got a start and an end setting here. And if I start to scroll up the start value towards 100%, you'll see that 100% is all letters visible, 0% is no letters visible. Same with the end point. So if I scrub the end from 100 down to 0, you'll see that that moves in the opposite direction from the end to the beginning. So that just gives you an idea of what the range selector does. So it'll alter whatever property, we're dealing with opacity at the moment, whatever property you apply to the range selector, you can then adjust that property using these start end points. Okay, so what we want to do is change the end to 100 and start to 0. So we start with no text visible. Okay, so we want to set a keyframe at this point. So we go to the start parameter here, click on the stopwatch. That will insert a keyframe at that point. Now if you remember, right at the beginning we pressed I to move the needle to the beginning of the start point of that layer. So we know that we're placing this keyframe exactly at the start point where this text appears on the layer. So what we want to do now is move this needle on exactly to 2 frames. So to do that precisely, we can go up to the top left hand corner of the timeline here and type in 200, press enter, and you see the needle just jumps along precisely to 2 frames along, from 1 frame to 2 frame. So what we want to do here at frame 2 is go back to this start setting here, this opacity setting, and bring this up to 100. So you see that basically what we've done is from the first keyframe here, where the start parameter is set to 0, and the second keyframe here where it's set to 100, that has this effect of basically going from 0 to 100% opacity across the letters, one after the other. So it creates this nice kind of scrolling effect. Okay, you can play that in real time as well. So if you drag the needle back to the beginning, press space bar to preview, you'll see it in sort of real time there. Okay, so I encourage you to have a look at some more of these animator settings that are nested here underneath the layer, and experiment with applying these effects to the text.